Good day everyone, my name is Joshua Agong and today I will be conducting my teaching demonstration. Allow me to start. Please stand for the opening prayer. Mr. Domingo, please lead the prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Amen. Good morning class! How are you this morning? Good, nice to hear that. Is there absent today? No, means perfect attendance. Clap your hands, please. Before we move on to our discussion this morning, let's first have an agreement. Is that fine with you all? Alright. All I want to do is to keep all the things that are not needed in our discussion. You have to sit properly and don't talk with your seatmates. So what if someone is talking here in the front, what would you do? Correct. You have to listen attentively. How about if you want to answer to my question? Good. You have to raise your hand silently. Do we have an agreement now? Alright. Before we move on to our discussion this morning, let's first have a review or a recap about our previous topic. What was our topic last meeting? Yes, Miss Bagolgo? Alright. Our last meeting was all about the two types of cells. So what are the two types of cells? Yes, Miss Vanessa. Alright. The two types of cells are the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cells. Do you have any questions or clarifications regarding our previous topic? Alright. So, before we formally discuss our topic this morning, I have a question. How do we study cells? Using what instrument? As we all know, cells are very tiny and very small. We can't even see them using our naked eye. So what instrument used to study cells? Alright, Miss Bagolgo, what? Yes, using a microscope. So based on the answer of Miss Bagolgo, what probably our topic this morning? Alright, our topic this morning is all about the microscope. But before we discuss the microscope, let's first have an objective. So the objective will be our guide along with our discussion. So class, please read the objective. Okay, thank you so much for reading. So, I am expecting that at the end of the discussion, you would be able to identify the parts of the microscope and its function and explain the uses of a microscope. So, is the objective clear, class? Alright, so, who among you here knows what is a microscope? Yes, Miss Pasco. Microscope is used to magnify cells. Okay. This is the true meaning of a microscope. So microscope is an instrument that produces enlarged images of small objects, allowing the observer an exceedingly close view of minute structures at a scale convenient for examination and analysis. So meaning to say, microscope is an instrument used to study certain parts, structures of a certain cell because it can close view of a minute structures of a very small or tiny part of a certain cell. So, we already know the meaning of the microscope. So, is anyone here knows the different parts of a microscope? Okay, class. These are the different parts of a microscope. So this is an illustration of a microscope. So these are the parts. We have the diaphragm, the ocular lens, the arm, stage, force adjustment knob, the the fine adjustment na the base, the light source, scanning objectives, revolving nose piece, body tube, and stage clip. So these are the different parts of a microscope. Now, let's talk about the functions of a microscope. So these are the functions of a microscope. Since you already know the different parts of the microscope, let's talk its corresponding functions. So, class, the parts and functions of a microscope. So, Domingo, can you please read what is a draw tube? Okay, thank you. So, a draw tube carries the ocular. It can be adjusted to control tube length and so effect corrections for the objective lens. So, class, over here, the illustration, this is the body tube or the draw tube. This one over here is the draw tube. So, it carries the ocular so that the observer can adjust. So, ma-adjust niya kung saan niya pag-view or examine or pag-analyze ang isa ka structure sa cells. So, this one is very helpful ang body tube para ma-adjust sa observer kung saan niya pag-lantaw ang cells. So, the next one is we have the revolving nose piece. So, the revolving nose piece is the part that holds two or more objective lenses and can be rotated to easily change power. So, over here, this is a revolving nose piece. So, the revolving nose piece is part that holds the two or more objective lenses so that it can be rotated or easily change the power. So, Miss Arancon, could you please identify over here in which part is the scanning objective? Okay, thank you. This one here is the scanning objective, in which the scanning objectives composed of the different lenses. So the scanning objective has 4 times magnification, so it has the lowest magnification power, and it provides enough magnification to give the observer a good overview of the entire slide and sample, meaning that this scanning objective has a 4 times magnification power. So it can provide only enough magnification to give an overview of the structure of the cell. Alright, so now let's move on to the low objective, or has the 10 times magnification. So over here are the lenses, the different objective, the different lenses. So it has, one of them is the low objective magnification. So the low objective magnification cover a wide field of view, and they are useful for examining large specimens. Meaning to say that this low objective has 10 times power magnification. It is very useful in examining large specimen class. So gamiton siya para sa mga large specimens ng mga structure. So let's move on to the high objective, in which it has 4 times magnification. Class, will you please read? Okay, thank you for reading. So, the high objective has a 4 times magnification, and it is ideal for observing fine details within a specimen sample, giving you a very detailed picture of the specimen in your slide. So, since the low objective has 10 times magnification and it can only be used in large specimens, so this high objective has a 4 times magnification, so it is very fine or ideal in examining specimen, especially on its fine details, or a very detailed picture of that specimen. So how about the oil immersion objective? Please read, Ms. Bagulbo. Okay, so oil immersion objective provides the most powerful magnification with a whopping tool of 100 times magnification. So meaning ang low objective has 10 times magnification, meaning the hard immersion objective has 10 times power than the low objective magnification. So it can magnify a very powerful magnification in which a total structure, you can clearly define details. So makita niyo ang mga fine details sa isa ka structure using the oil immersion objectives. Right? So, meaning ang low objective has a wide field of structure, wide field ang iyang magnification. At the same time, ang high objective has an idea of observing a fine detail of a structure. And also, the oil immersion objective has 100 times power magnification, in which it is the most powerful tool magnification in observing the structure of a cell. Alright. Now let's move on to the stage clip. Mr. Gary Cavillar, could you please locate here in the illustration in which part is stage clip? So the stage clip is over here. This one. The stage clip. In which used when there is no mechanical stage, the viewer is required to move the slide manually to view different section of specimen. Meaning, ang stage clip di ay is used siya para ma-rotate, ma-slide manually ang isa ka specimen to clearly see the total area or the total structure of the specimen. So we need to use the stage clip people for us to repeat the specimen. So let's move on to the diagram. Class, please read what is the function of the diagram. Okay, thank you. The diagram is the piece that enables the user to adjust the amount of light that is focused under the specimen being observed. So over here is the diagram, this one. So meaning, the diagram can be adjusted on what amount of light that is being focused under the specimen. So during the part, pwede din mo siya ma-adjust o kung sa kayo ang exact amount sa imo para makita nimo ang specimen nga imong gi-studyhan. So meaning, helpful ang diagram to enable the user to adjust the light. So ang light niya mo i-adjust. Now let's move on to the light source. So, Mr. Domingo, please read. What is a light source? Okay. Light source is used to produce light. Meaning, be able for you to clearly magnify, to see the structure, the entire structure of a cell or a specimen, you have to use that light. Be able for you to clearly see the entire structure. So, ang light na ito mag-produce siya o light para makita ang entire structure. Is it clear? Alright. Now let's move on to the ocular eyepiece. So the ocular eyepiece magnifies the primary image produced by the objective. The eye can then use the full resolution capability of the objective. So over here, we have the ocular lens. The ocular lens is the one that magnifies primarily to the image. So meaning to say, as an observer, dili nga part, dili mo makita ang structure primarily. So after that, you can adjust directly using the revolving nose piece para ma-adjust mo ang isa ka structure para on what sa imong part as an observer. For example, ikaw observer ka, so be able for you to adjust the primary source of the ocular eyepiece. You have to use the revolving nose piece. Be able for you to clearly unsa jud unsa ka fine mo makita, no? Sa structure. So the arm, please read, Miss Pasco. Okay, the arm connects to the base and supports the microscope head. It also used to carry the microscope. Meaning, over here, this is the arm. So the arm used to support the head. Meaning to say, this is the head composed of the revolving nose piece, the body tube, the ocular lens. So this is the upper part of the microscope or the head of the microscope. So the arm is very useful to connect and to support the microscope head. And it is also used to carry the microscope. So this one over here, the R. So dili mo siya pwede makubtan para dalhin mo ang microscope. So the stage. The stage is used to place the specimen for observation. So over here, this one is the stage. Kumbaga, ang specimen or ang structure na imong i-observe is dili siya imong ibutang. Be able ang mga lenses o ang different type of objectives makita nimo dayon. So it holds the specimen ang ato ang stage. So now let's move on to course adjustment na. Mr. Daga, please read. Okay, thank you. Take your seat. So a course adjustment knob is a rapid control which allows for quick focusing by moving the objective lens or stage up and down is used for initial focusing. So over here is the course adjustment knob. So pwede mo na siya icon bitaw na ma-adjusting mo para ma-up and down ang stage. O kung sa kagusto mo whether close view or down view ang imong paglantaw or pag-examine sa isa ka specimen. So that is the course adjustment knob. From the term itself, course adjustment knob meaning ma-adjustan nimo siya o kung sa ka or ma-control nimo ang specimen na imong gi-focus. So the fine adjustment knob. The fine adjustment knob is a low but precise control which allows for fine focus of image when viewing at higher magnification. Okay, Miss Pasco, over the illustration of the microscope, could you please locate in which part is fine adjustment knob located? Okay, very good, thank you. This one over here below the coarse adjustment knob is the fine adjustment knob. So the fine adjustment knob is used for a precise control for a fine focus of an image. So a coarse adjustment is used for moving the lenses up and down. Ang kaning fine adjustment knob po is to precisely focus the specimen or the image you are being viewed. So, if para precisely mo makita nimo ang entire structure dun sa isa ka specimen or ang structure or ang image, you have to use the fine adjustment knob para maimo siyang ma-adjustan to clearly understand or focus the entire viewing. Right? So, the last part of the microscope, we have the base or the bottom of the microscope used for support. Meaning, ang base ko no, this one over here, the entire part, this one, the bottom part, is the base used to support the weight, the body weight of the microscope. So, iyang gina-control or gina-supportahan ang body part sa microscope. So, what are the parts of the microscope? We have the diaphragm, the ocular lens, the arm, stage, coarse adjustment knob, the fine adjustment knob, the base, light source, scanning objective, revolving nose piece, body tube, and stage clip. Those are the parts of the microscope. And now, is there anyone in the class knows the different uses of a microscope? Since you already know the parts, the meaning of the microscope, its corresponding functions, so what is the different uses of microscope? Anyone in the class? Any idea? Yes, Mr. Sumalpong? Alright, to magnify cells or to study cells. Okay, that is one uses of a microscope. So class, these are the different uses of a microscope. We have the 5 different uses. It uses tissue analysis for examining forensic evidence, determining the health of ecosystem, studying the role of protein within a cell, and studying the atomic structures. So why is it that microscope used for tissue analysis? As I've said earlier that tissue or cells are very tiny. They are microscopic. Our naked eye can't even see the entire structure entirely. So be able for us to magnify or to use to study tissue analysis, we have to use microscope because it has the study objective, the low objective, the high objective, and oil immersion objective, in which we can control or we can observe the fine details using the high objective or the immersion objective. So in tissue analysis, we have to use what? Microscope. Second, examining forensic evidence. Why is it that using microscope we can identify or examine forensic evidence? Yes, we have to use microscope be able for us to examine forensic evidence because during crime, the fingerprint or the thumb and also the bullet used in a certain crime can be examined through a microscope. We can identify what the thumb, the fingerprint of the person who commits the crime. So that is a microscope used. And also third, we have determining the health of ecosystem. Why is it that microscope used to determine the health of ecosystem? As we all know, class, that the ecosystems are very diverse and it is very diverse and there's a lot of microorganisms living in the ecosystem. So be able for us to clearly understand the function, the structure of the certain organism, we have to use the microscope. Especially now, facing pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, as we all know that viruses and bacteria are very small and we can't even see them. So be able to study its function, its whole parts. We used to use the microscope, be able for us to determine the strength of a virus and its weaknesses, right? So the fourth use of microscope is to study the role of a protein within a cell. So as a person, as a human being, we are composed of trillions of cells. And the protein in our body is very important to be able for us to work every day. The protein is, the main function of that is to supply energy to our body, be able for us to work. So be able for us to examine whether our protein function well or not, we have to use the microscope to be able for us to clearly see the entire structure of the protein. So the last use is to study atomic structures. As we all know, atoms are very small and tiny. So be able for us to study the structures of a certain atom, we have to use the microscope because it has different objective lenses. So ma-observe mo siya kung saan whether 4 times magnification or 10 times magnification, the 40 times magnification or the 100 times magnification. So yung naka-powerful ang ato ang microscope. So since we already know the parts, the function of the uses of microscope, I have a question. Why do we study the microscope, its parts, functions, and uses? Why do we study? No, mag-study nito sa microscope. How important it is to study? Yes, Miss Vanessa, your idea? Okay. We need to study because it is very important that we need to study as a science student. Be able for us to know how to handle, how to properly use, what are the functions of that certain part of the microscope. Be able for us to be aware that microscope can be used in everything that we want to examine, especially those small structure or images of a cell. So that's it. Thank you, Ms. Vanessa. Since we already know the uses, the parts and functions of a microscope, the true meaning of a microscope, let's first have a review of the lesson that we have today. So, what is a microscope, class? Microscope is an instrument used to magnify small organisms or small cells. The parts, what are the parts of the microscope? We have the diaphragm, the ocular lens, the arm. The arm is the one who produces or to support the upper part of the microscope. We have the stage, in which the stage can be adjusted, and the force adjustment knob, the fine adjustment knob, the base which supports the entire weight of the microscope. We also have the light source. sa light source kay sa tong light source para ma-adjust na nato kung sa ang light na ma-produce sa microscope para ma-examine nimo ang structure. We also have the scanning objective, the revolving nose piece, which consists the different types of lenses, the body tube, this one, and the stage clip. So we already know the parts of the microscope, class. So okay na. Now we already know the different parts, functions of the microscope. So for that, let's have an activity. Are you excited for our activity? So our activity this morning, you will be divided into 3 groups. This row will be the first group, the second row will be the second group, and the third row will be the third group. So our activity this morning is identify the parts and functions of microscope and explain as well the different uses of microscope. So, class, you will be given this one, the structures or the diagram of the microscope. All you need to do is to locate or identify each part and give its corresponding functions, and at the end of the diagram, you also need to explain the different uses of the microscope. So, you will be given 10 minutes to answer or to prepare the activities, and after that, we'll be having a reporting. You have to select one reporter each group. Okay? So, class, please be mindful that the activity consists of a criteria on how you to grade. So, the content is 50%, the presentation 30%, and the teamwork 20%. So, given a work, you'll be given 10 minutes to work with your activity. Okay. Are you done, class? Okay, you are excited to present. Okay, group 1, please present. Thank you. Group 2. Excellent presentation. Group 3. Wow, very good presentation. Bravo! A big round of applause, class. You will perform the activity well. So for that, let's have a short quiz. Get 1/2 sheet of paper and answer the following question on the board. Direction. You have to identify the parts of the microscope. There are 5 questions here, and you have to identify the parts. And the test would be an explanation. You have to explain what is a microscope, and you have to enumerate what are the uses of the microscope. Is the instruction clear, class? Okay. Are you done, class? Okay, pass your papers forward. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay. For your assignment, class, get your assignment notebook and copy this one on your notebook. All you need to do is to draw a microscope and identify its parts and give its corresponding functions. Is the instruction clear, class? Okay, do you have any questions, clarifications regarding our topic about microscope? Okay, if not, keep all your things and goodbye, class. Thank you for listening.